Welcome back to Build Your Legacy. My name is Steven Jackson. I'm here with Head Commissioner Brandon Morgan. Today, we're going to be going over the tentative rules for our online Dynasty and EA College Football 2025. We're obviously moving over from Madden to college football, so we are bringing over a bulk of the rules with some minor adjustments. When the game comes out next week, we're obviously going to be able to change some of these rules if need be. If there's a broken play or if there's certain bugs in the game, we are going to change the rules to fix that and for keeping the league balanced and not one person being able to just exploit something within the game just not being out. But we're going to get right into it, man. Again, these rules can change, so just keep that in mind. But these are going to be our baseline. So we are going to be a 48 to 72-hour league. That means we're going to advance somewhere between 2 and 3 days. Obviously, with the game just now being back after 10 years, we anticipate the first season to fly by. Everybody's going to be excited to play. We are going to have a 3-day kind of maximum for each week. We don't want to be at every week forever. And when you see simulation style, I know in the gameplay deep dive, we didn't see any comp or sim game mode types. So hopefully that this game doesn't have it. You just play the game straight up. But if they do have a comp or sim option, we are going to play on sim. So the best players are performing better than the worst players. We don't want a user who's really good to take Akron and go beat Alabama just because he's a good user. We want it to be simulation style. The best players need to be best players as far as ratings go in the game. We are playing on Heisman difficulty. So we are going to play on Heisman difficulty. But if the game is not hard enough, we are going to up the slider. So we do want to still have a challenge against the CPU opponents. And then we're a Discord ran league. Those of you guys who know that we're already in here knows we're a Discord ran league. Zero tolerance. So these are rules and things that are non-negotiable in this league. So you cannot quit against users. There's no conceding. So that means if you're losing by 50, take the air out the ball. Get out of the game. Go back and watch the film. You cannot restart against CPU. You get one chance to play against the CPU. It will tell us. I'm 99% sure it'll tell us if you restart against CPU. That'll result in a fine. Those of you guys who are in here knows that we have fines. Those will result in a fine and QB suspension, stuff like that. And ultimately, we're going to end up removing you if you can't seem to get on board with that. Again, no conceding. If you're losing big, just take the air out the ball. Take your loss. Bounce back. Everyone's going to lose. This is not Madden. All the teams are not even. If you're not a good user and you're on a bad team, you're going to struggle. But at the end of the day, it's called Build Your Legacy for a reason. Let's work our way up, fellas. Trash talking outside of the football is not okay. So of course everybody's going to have rivals in here. We're all going to kind of get to know each other. We're going to be a tight knit community. But don't bring families into it and stuff like that. That's another reason why we moved to Discord. We don't want to have Facebook profiles in and people sending pictures of people on Facebook. So no trash talking outside of football. Again, paying fines are mandatory for those. Everybody who's in this league agreed to paying those fines. Failure to pay a fine will result in your removal from the league. And every game must be streamed and saved. Those of you guys who have any questions with that, let me or any of the commissioners know. But Brandon, go ahead and kick us off with activity.
So everybody that's already in the league already knows that we already have 3 coaching interviews mandatory per year. 30 of us already knocked ours out. We only have 2 left, so majority of you already know what's going on there. You have about 24 hours to schedule with your opponent. If y'all are not lining up properly and somebody's at work or whatever, and you want to force win the commissioners, you'll send that to the commissioners and we'll go over it and see who's getting a force win or a fair sim, depending on how we see fits the most. And every game must be streamed and it needs to be permanently saved on YouTube. A lot of y'all stream on Twitch. It needs to be saved and it needs to be posted on YouTube so we can watch film, go over, see if anybody broke any rules or anything like that. So it is mandatory that you keep your videos saved on YouTube.
Yeah, the reason why also for the whole YouTube saving, I know people are going to be griping about that and say, well, if I'm streaming, why should I have to post it? Because if you're playing against a CPU at 3 in the morning, you have to follow all the rules as if you're playing against a user. So no, you can't go for it on 4th and 30 against the CPU. No, you can't super sim on defense. You have to follow the rules against the CPU as like you would against the user. And the way we can police that is by everyone saving their games. So that way we can go over that. And again, we may not ever go over your game, but if you don't have it posted, that's going to be an issue. So it needs to be up there for kind of the integrity of the league. Moving on, rewards and fines. Rewards will be given out every season a national champion, conference championships, and Heisman winners. So it's going to be $20 for conference champions and $20 for Heisman winner, $100 for national champion. All fines paid will go towards rewards at the end of each season. So again, if you break a rule and there's a $3 fine, let's say for instance, that's going to go into the pot. Everybody who's in here understands that the 5 commissioners that we have are all paying $25 up front. That's in the financial log section. The financial log channel in the Discord, you can see that in there. All commissioners have paid their dues for season 1. So there's $125 there in the pot. Any fines that commissioners or users, head coaches pay will add to that pot. Every season, we'll cycle in 3 new members of the fine committee to keep bias out of fines being issued for rule breaks. So how we decided it is Brandon and I are going to be 2 members of the fine committee, and we'll stay in that fine committee. And every year, we're going to have 3 members that are non-commissioners join the fine committee. So there's going to be 5 of us. And whenever there's a fine or a rule, whenever there's a rule broken, the 5 people, Brandon, myself, and the 3 users will come up with what is appropriate fine and punishment for that person. And we're going to cycle them every 3 years, so there can't be any bias. Someone can't say, you guys are just picking on me. There's going to be new people every single year. So you're going to have a chance to be a part of the fine committee. Your friend's going to have a chance to be a part of the fine committee. So everyone's going to have a kind of play a part as kind of a way to keep, like I said, keep balance, like checks and balances, so to speak. Fines will range from $1 to $20, as well as player suspensions. You're not going to have a $20 fine if you break the simplest rule in the book. You may have a $1 fine. But again, if you're one of those guys who say, wow, that fine's only $5, I'm just going to break it over and over to get an edge, you're going to get removed from the league. We're not going to play games. And, at the end of the day, we're adding fines to keep integrity within the league. So that's what we're trying to do. If you never break a rule, you'll never have to pay a dime. So yes, there's fines in this league. Don't break a rule. I understand there's accidents. And that's why there's fines that range from $1. If you accidentally break a rule, it'll be $1. It'll be $2. It's not something crazy. But if you're doing something deliberately, then you're going to get punished for it. And that's just, the way it's going to be. Gameplay rules, Brandon, go ahead and kick this off.
Yeah, so there will be no custom playbooks allowed when you're loading into the game, regardless if it's against a user or a CPU. You need to show your playbook. That way we can go over it whenever we're watching you play the CPU, or your opponent can see what playbook you're using. Obviously, if it's a custom, it'll say like West Coast or something like that on his screen, but on the stream, it will show what playbook the name is or whatever, like if it's created or not. And you must rush 3 at all times. You cannot rush 2 and put a guy in a QB spot and then send him later on. It got to be 3 at all times. For those who are used to Madden, I know you are familiar with the cooldown. That is going to be implemented. If they let us have it in the game, we're going to implement a cooldown just to keep fresh plays in, open up your playbook. Um, no using cheese plays over and over, and also will be a play limit. It'll basically, once you pick a play, it'll have a number how many times you can use that play again on top of the cooldown. So you'll see it cycling through. If you're not used to Madden, you will see it cycling through. If you are, if they do allow us to have it in the game, you cannot no huddle to avoid the play cooldown. So that is spamming no huddle the whole time and keep running the same play over and over. You cannot do that. That is considered a rule break. So we're not going to allow that. And players must be set after motion snap at motion in the ball. So if you manually motion somebody over, you have to let him set before you can snap the ball. Now there is plays where they motion over and you'll snap the ball as they're still motioning, but those are plays that are already in the game. If you're manually doing it, then that is considered a rule break, and we're not going to allow that. So, and on defense, you can only manually move one player. So if you want to use your safety, you could have to use your safety the whole time. You can't move your safety down to the behind your linebacker and then switch over to your linebacker and user him. You got to use the same person the whole entire time. And no bringing down the safety to 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. You can't bring him in front of the linebackers or hover over like the center and stuff. And then when that ball is snapped, you snatch him back and hop into coverage. You cannot do that. He needs to be in reasonable distance. There are plays where the safety will be down to the line of scrimmage, but those are plays that are already implemented in the game. If you're doing a safety blitz, the safety will come down on his own. He don't need you to move him down at all. He will do it on his own. So we know what's real and what's not real. So we'll be keeping an eye on that for sure. And chew clock. If you are the person that likes, I know I've heard a lot of people in their interviews saying, I want to keep the ball. I don't want to give the ball to the other opponent. I want to, I'm a time of possession type player. And that's fine. You can have the ball the whole entire game, but you cannot put the game on chew clock where it's just burning the whole time. You can manually just do your adjustments or whatever you're trying to do. But when you go in the game and fix the settings to do the chew clock, we're not going to allow that to the 2 minute warning. So once the 2 minute warning kicks in and you're up or whatever, and you want to throw that chew clock on, that is fine. Or another situation, if you're up 30 to 40 points on your opponent and he's ready to get out of there and you're ready to get out there, y'all can both agree to turn the chew clock on and just get out of the game faster. That's the other only way you can do it is you and your other opponent agree to it, or it's a 2 minute warning mark in the fourth quarter.
And before we move over, so Brandon can go over the fourth down rules. I do want to kind of touch base on the defense only manual one player. That is the rule. Now, if let's say I'm playing against Brandon and he's on offense and I'm on defense, and I'm maneuvering my free safety, but he switches to from trips left to trips right, he flips his play. I'm able to now put my safety back and use someone else. Now that he's audible, I'm able to audible. So that is one thing as well. And when it comes to the chew clock and conceding, I want to talk about this as well. Yes, in the fourth quarter or third quarter, if you're up big and you want to just kind of take the air out of the ball, that's fine. The reason why we're not allowing conceding is because wear and tear is on. So if someone concedes in the start of the third quarter, they're not having the opportunity to get wear and tear for the following weeks. Wear and tear progression is going to be on in this league, so everyone should be at the same, I guess we'd say the same use of
Playing
the
field.
wear and tear. Yeah, like everyone should have the same penalties for it. If I'm constantly getting my opponent out of there in the third quarter and Brandon has to play every game for the fourth quarter, he's going to have more beat up players than I will. So everybody needs to play their full games. But Brandon, go ahead and talk about the fourth down rules.
Yeah, so fourth down rules, fourth and fourth or less before the 50-yard line, you can go for it. If it's fourth and seven, fourth and eight, you cannot go for it. Once you get on the 50-yard line or past the 50-yard line, there is no fourth down rule. You can go for it on fourth and 30. It don't matter where you're at. As long as you're past the 50 or on the 50, you can go for it. Don't matter what the fourth down is. And also, there's no fourth down rules in overtime or the fourth quarter. It's play to win in those situations, obviously, and that's that. And no fourth down rule for you if you're down 17 plus points. If you're down 17-0 and it's fourth and five on your own 30, you can go for it. At that point, you're just punting the ball away to keep losing the game at that point. So you can take chances at that point to try to put yourself back into the game.
Yeah, and the reason why I know a lot of people are going to ask what's the reason of having fourth down rules. I'm going to be honest. There's guys like myself where I don't want to punt. I feel confident going for it on fourth and seven on my own territory in my own territory, but I also know that that's not realistic because in real life they're punting the ball in those situations. So that's the reason why we have a fourth down rule. We want to keep it a sim based league. People shouldn't be going for it on fourth and 10 on their own 15-yard line. It's just not realistic, fellas. So that's another reason why we have the fourth down rule. But moving on, I'll cover roster adjustments and player edits. This is a big one for me. This is something that I personally really wanted to implement in this year's league. You cannot change any player's name or appearance. What that means is you cannot go in and change a recruit that you just got, make them a different skin tone, make them look different, change his first and last name. We're going to keep everything the way they are in the game as far as recruits. If there's a certain style of player you want, a certain race, a certain name, you need to go recruit that certain player. Then we're not going to change names because then we get into a situation where people are just editing players and making Michael Jackson as a wide receiver, like just doing weird stuff like that. So we're going to keep everything the same. Players' numbers and gear can be modified. So you are able to go in and change a visor, put a sleeve on, change cleats, change a number. If you want a guy to wear number 2, whatever the case may be, you can do that. You just cannot change their first and last name or their appearance, their physical appearance. This is a big one. This is something that we really need to hit on. Position changes can only be done during the position changes or roster adjustment week. So you cannot move your player's position during the season. So if you have a corner, you cannot move him to safety in week 5. At the beginning of the year, you need to have that player where you want him for the whole year. At the end of the day, it's all about game and roster management. We're all head coaches and we're all starting from the bottom, working our way up. We're not going to take any shortcuts. So, throughout the middle of the season, if you realize, dang, I should have put this guy at safety, he's a better safety in the offseason, make sure you make a mental note and you move him to safety in the offseason. But the reason why we're doing that is because people progress for their position group. We don't want people trying to cheat the system and stuff like that. Players must meet requirements when you're doing the roster adjustments and when you're moving to those positions. Those requirements are below. So offensive lineman, you can move wherever you want. A left guard can go to right tackle, a right guard can go to center, vice versa. Defensive linemen and linebackers, you can move them how you want. You can put a left outside linebacker at DN. You can put a DN at left outside linebacker. Those do not matter. You cannot move a safety to linebacker, so that's a big one. Wide receiver to tight end, if you're doing that, because I understand when we recruit, there's going to be receivers that we recruit that are just big, slow receivers. If those receivers are 250 pounds or more, and they're at least 86 speed or lower, you can put them at tight end if you want to do that. Wide receiver to running back, they have to be a 92 speed or lower. So you cannot move a wide receiver to running back unless they are a 92 speed or lower. You cannot move a cornerback to safety unless they are 92 speed or lower. What that does, it prevents people from just recruiting 10 corners, all 98 speed, and then moving them to safety because they have a bunch of fast safeties and corners now. That's not what we're going to do. You need to recruit for that position. Now, if you recruit a safety that's a 98 speed, then he's a safety at 98 speed. That's okay. If you recruit a running back that's 98 speed, that's okay. So you just cannot move those positions to the new positions that they're above that speed. Like I said, the reason for that is to avoid cheese, so people can't try to exploit the game, because naturally corners are faster than safeties. So people are going to recruit corners instead and just move them to safety. So again, roster adjustments have to be done at the roster adjustments week. And again, there's some anomalies. There's some, some rare scenarios where somebody might be an athlete. Well, at the roster adjustment screen, you need to decide then where you want them to play. If you want them to play corner, they're going to play corner that year. If you want them to play safety, they're going to play safety. If you want to play wide receiver, they're going to play wide receiver. Now, we understand also Travis Hunter's a two-way player. So there may be two-way players in the recruiting classes. We don't know. Hopefully there isn't, because there's only been one in the past 15 seasons. So hopefully there isn't any more. But in the case there is a two-way player you can use, we are not going to police that. If you want a player to play on both sides of the ball, that's completely fine. But you must choose a position. So let's say, for example, a guy like Travis Hunter is set as a wide receiver in the game. He has to stay in your roster as a wide receiver throughout the whole year. You can't manually go in and edit his position to corner. He has to stay as a wide receiver. Now, if you sub him in at corner, that's fine. But the reason why we're doing that, again, is for progression issues. We don't want people to progress to certain positions they're not in. But again, if you use a guy and plan two ways, we all know how wear and tear has been explained. So in the third and fourth quarter, when your guy has lost 8 speed and 10-man coverage and 10 deep route running, don't be upset because you had him playing on both sides of the ball. Wear and tear, like I said, is a big deal in this game. So we're going to use it accordingly. So if you are wanting to use a two-way player, that is going to be your fault if he gets injured. We don't want to hear any complaints about the injuries being too high or wear and tear being too high. That was your choice. Again, all of these rules are going to be subject to change once the game comes out. But if you guys have any questions or anything like that, just feel free to reach out to Brandon or myself, and we will go over everything with you guys. We're recording this video on July 10th. I'm going to go ahead and post it literally in the next 30 minutes. You guys are going to see this on July 10th as well. The game comes out in 5 days. We are starting the league on the 28th, so we still have about 2.5 weeks until then. Give us a little bit of time to figure out rule changes and stuff like that. But ideally, we just want the rules to stick with how they are. That's best case scenario, less work for us. And again, if everyone cooperates, we can make this league the best league out there. So that's what we're looking forward to. Brandon, is there anything you want to kind of leave everybody with before we head out, or do you feel like we covered everything?
Yeah, like you said, the rules are subject to change. If y'all do have any other ideas, you can throw them out there. We'll look at them. We're not saying that we're going to put them in, but we will look at them, especially if it's a good idea for the league. At the end of the day, we just want what's best for the league. And yeah, that's it.
All right, well, we will see you guys in 5 days for the release of the game and 11 days for Selection Sunday. Look forward to seeing you guys then. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.